Amazing. I think we're live streaming and hopefully I'm not blinking. So, hello, everybody. Good night. Good evening. Karen here with my lovely co host Tina from Quantum Healing with Tina and Karen. We are just coming on tonight to have like a little chit chat because it's been like a minute that we've been together and um, at least via YouTube. We were able to get together the last couple of weeks. Me and my kids were able to go down to New Jersey, and I don't know when the last time was that we went online, but just a little quick update for those that are just joining us. That I had taken my kids out from traditional schooling and had opened up homeschool. What do we call it? Schoolhouse. I don't know. Spirit school.
Spirit school.
Spirit school with K Dog and T-Pack. So
Helen's here. Hi, Helen.
Hi, Helen. We started this about the beginning of November. I believe the last time we had spoken, did my grandmother already pass away? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we had all that stuff going on, like because there's a delay, I guess, with the dead. So we had to delay her viewing, and then after that another delay for the funeral because we had to cremate her, and then that also pushed back my plans on like leaving with the kids to go to Jersey, but eventually we got there. A lot of fun stuff had been come out, revealed, old wounds, narcissistic tendencies, what else, ugly old stuff. I had got into like some deep survival mode prior to coming to New Jersey, and I think like I was carrying like this huge weight on my back, and then eventually when I arrived there, I didn't unload it right away. It was a gradual unload until Tina was just like, okay, you look funny and your energy's bad. So something to look at and consider. I was like, fuck, she's right. Gotta make the best of the time that we have, because again, we just never know when or if this will ever happen again. And you kind of don't want to lose time when you're actually in it. But yeah, we made the best of it for the last stretch of the time we were together, and had a good old time. Felt like it was really cool to have her present also in helping me with the kids, giving me a little break, because it does take a toll when you're doing it on your own. And then with the homeschooling and holiday festivities, we were able to celebrate Thanksgiving together with her aunt and her cousin up in upstate Pennsylvania, which was really nice. The kids had a great time there. So taking a little road trip together. What else did we do? We were able to see a racehorse the first week we arrived. We had a big party, a 90th birthday party, which we will discuss because that is pertinent. I mean, yeah, we like to celebrate life, but we also don't want to get poisoned. What? Okay, stay tuned for more of that. But yeah, just the togetherness with the family, celebrating Tina's niece's 15th birthday, and we were able to see the light show, and yeah, we did a lot of painting together as a family, which was nice. Everyone discovering their own inner Bob Ross. Huh? Yeah. Tina is one. She should show you some of the pictures that she painted, which are beautiful. And yeah, it was a good therapy. But yeah, after like snapping out, we were in a little bit of a funk, and got out of it slowly, gradually, and putting it into a lot of perspective, because it also was reflective of what was going on, or what we were attracting, or the people that were coming into our practice. So it was just kind of steering the way of like, I feel also like when that happens, it like is able to kind of just mirror the old stuff too, because like we are educated in this stuff, we are also healing through the stuff. And so being able to, I guess it felt like a refresher, if you will, to be able to come out there and empower ourselves again, come back into perspective, and realign, recharge, etc., so that we could be present for our clientele that is coming with these specific things. So with much further ado, I would like to open the floor for my beloved here. What would you like to say? How are you today, my love?
Hey, thanks for the intro. Well, first, I want to say thanks to all of our new subscribers that probably came over from the QRE network in our video with Jason. That was really fun. And we're really excited that you're here. Thanks for coming over and subscribing. That's always fun to have, new people hanging out with us. So thanks for being here. And there's just so much to talk about. So before we leave that topic where you just were there, Karen, I think it's important to talk about how entities can insert themselves within a relationship to create these scenarios in an attempt to create discordant energies and to disrupt the harmony that's in the relationship, whether that's in soulmate relationships, twin flame relationships, even Christed pairs, which is something that also came up while we were together. This, I'm going to link this down below after the video, but it's called The Real Story of Christmas. And it's about their 3 Jesuses. And this is the first thing I've actually was asking out loud, like, to our guides, like, please show me what the real story of Christmas is. And then one of our friends came in with a document titled The Real Story of Christmas, like out of nowhere. So I thought that was really cool. So this idea of these Christed pairs also showed up in our awareness during this whole time. And also the idea of, The Dark Side of Cupid by Eve Lorgan. And the dark side of Cupid can show up in various different ways, but basically it's entity influence in a relationship. And it can show up in many different ways, I guess. Mostly targeted are people with awareness in like spiritual communities and disclosure type communities, because those are the people that are raising the frequency on the planet, to say it in the most simple terms. So entities and or ETs will create love type relationships, which you could call like false twin flame type of relationships with magical synchronicities. Just because there are magical synchronicities that are happening with this new person that you meet does not mean that it's organically created. It can be inorganically created. Even the feelings that you're having for this person can be inorganically created. So just something to be aware of, something we can talk about more later, but I just wanted to like add that in there. Another way they work is to insert influence into really strong relationships, like between me and Karen. So some of that discordant energy that was being created there, yes, there was the death of her grandmother and taking the kids out of school to homeschool. So there was stress involved as well. And that's a vulnerability point to come in. And they will create energies in a couple like us to create that discordance so that then we're not in harmony and working in alignment. So it's just interesting because, I think our guides allow that to happen so that we can gain the awareness on how that works and then know how, then you have the awareness, then you can see it everywhere, right? Once you have the awareness of something, you literally you start seeing it everywhere. And you can see how, with the clients that have been attracted to us, the same thing is happening there. It's entity involvement, especially in these super psychopathic kind of narcissistic relationships. And, another interesting part of that is that everything's being unveiled, right? Like things that were hidden, all the secrets that were hidden underneath the surface is being unveiled. So that's why we're seeing so much of the covert narcissistic abuse kind of scenarios coming to the light, because it's being revealed. There's just like too much light now that it can't be hidden anymore. So, more people are getting divorced, having issues with their spouse, because these things are coming up to the surface, and people, it's like the blinders are being taken off, right? You see the rise in the awareness of narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder over the last 5 years even, and it's reaching like a peak now where people are really becoming aware of these energies and how they're playing out in their own lives, between friends and lovers and bosses and coworkers and all of these things. And with narcissism, with psychopathy, sociopathy, there are entity influences for sure. 100%. Yeah.
There was totally like entity involvement, like with what happened with us, and totally taking advantage of like, the vulnerability, like you said. I mean, I was carrying a lot of baggage when I had left to come to Jersey, and they totally took advantage of that. Like, okay, well, if we can just like keep her toppled and messed up, that'll like cause like, some kind of rift. But I feel like between the work that we've done on ourselves individually and together in our partnership had, we still had to work through some hard things anyway. I mean, like having those hard conversations and talking about it, and, having to go to bed at night and then waking up and doing it again, like it was just like, like we end on a good note, and then it's like the morning comes and you just feel the energy shifts.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh God, the anxiety is like starting again. Like you could feel it like going up, and it's just like, you're just waiting. Like I wasn't going to ask, because I'm like, I don't want to hear what's wrong with me. Okay. So it's like, we'll just wait till she tells me. I'll just wait here, right here next to her. But yeah, it was like a roller coaster, and I felt like it was, but it's her process, and it's me having to also manage while she's processing, and managing my own anxiety and stress around it, and not trying to like create things. And it's just like standing in your own truth and being like, all right, let's just battle. But like,
it's not a battle. That's the thing.
No.
It's not a battle. This is having conscious relationships, and how you work through triggers without projecting all of your shit onto somebody else and blaming, and the judgment and the anger and all that stuff. Sometimes that does come up, but it's something that you have to work through together. Like that's what a conscious relationship is. It's not just screaming and fighting and yelling and then walking away. It's something that you have to learn how to work through, and have the emotional intelligence, as uncomfortable as it is, to have those difficult conversations.
Yeah.
Because what's the alternative? The alternative is to suppress it, to pretend like it's not happening. And then what that does is it builds up the resentment and anger, and you're holding on to that. And in a conscious relationship, at least between me and Karen, like we cannot have any kind of tension like energies in between us. If there is like a tension type energy there, we both feel it, and it's super uncomfortable. And like we just said, like everything has to be unveiled. There has to be like transparency. There has to be that transparency. Otherwise the energies are completely off and discordant. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Can a narcissist be healed? That's
I'm right here. Hello. No, I think like we have, everybody has like narcissistic tendencies, or traits or whatever. It really depends if you are a source player or not, right? I think that's what it comes down to, whose side you play for. But in terms of a non-player of the light, like true light. I don't know. I don't think so. Like, I don't think they're here for that purpose of healing. They're here as, like, let's say parasitic, they're just parasite. If they're not even conscious about themselves or having that awareness, no, there's no healing there.
Here's the thing too about narcissism, and like you identifying yourself as a narcissist, I don't think it's completely accurate. There's a scale, right? From like really low level to like completely sociopathic energies. And you would be down here for sure. But I wouldn't identify you as a narcissist. Can your behavior at times when you're in that state be narcissistic? Like, yes, but I definitely wouldn't diagnose you with narcissistic personality disorder. That's what we're talking about here. Like severe cases, everyone has narcissistic traits, especially when you have those wounds of abandonment. That's what creates those narcissistic like traits. And people like that have what is labeled as like borderline personality disorder and things like that. But I definitely wouldn't diagnose you with something like that. No. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about a true narcissist is completely cut off from source. There's no connection at all. There's no light coming in. So what they have to do then is they have to get energy somehow to sustain their own life force. And the way that they do that is by taking that light from other people. Like we just saw in a session the other day with one of these clients that we were alluding to that is going through a really difficult time with her spouse. And we saw in his session that he was literally just walking around sucking light from people. Like it was just like sucking the light out of people because they don't have a connection. They're not getting light and life force any other way but to draw it from other people. So it's like an energy vampirism that happens. So that's really interesting. Yeah. Parasitic. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. How to protect the children? Well, I mean, you can protect them energetically, create that bubble of protection around them. But that's something that, if those children are really in a narcissistic environment, that's something they're probably going to have to deal with and work through on their own. There's really not much you can do besides taking those children out of that environment, besides protecting them energetically. Yeah, that's really hard. It's really hard to grow up in with a narcissistic parent. That's really difficult. So this theme was coming through a lot, this like covert kind of like narcissism and how these energies are playing out in relationships on a personal level. And then you see it kind of unveiling itself on the global stage as well, with everything that's being revealed, how people are beginning to see more clearly how these more subtle energies are being played out on a global scale, how we've been tricked and manipulated and lied to and all of those things. So it's really interesting. Anything you want to add to that topic?
I don't know. We're just seeing it everywhere. Like, just according to my observation in, general, everybody is in this predicament. It looks like, to some degree. I mean, if you haven't taken responsibility or active healing and, into your own stuff, chances are, you go into these relationships because, I mean, generationally, and everybody has not taken the steps to heal themselves, etc. And we're all passing down all of our junk onto our kids and so on and so forth. So technically, if that's the case, then yeah, there's no healing. And so therefore you are recreating the same imbalanced relationships. So yeah, you just kind of see that there's no, yeah, that's
It's
just
so
my,
imbalanced, yeah.
yeah.
And speaking of soul healing, what came to me recently was that, you know, you think about children that are exhibiting psychopathic kind of behaviors. I mean, that's an extreme example, but you ask yourself why, like, if children are supposed to be innocent and, you know, we're supposed to be born innocent, maybe that's truly not the case, because we've seen that a lot of souls that have incarnated haven't been allowed to rest. They haven't been allowed healing. They're just being stuck in purgatory or in the astral, whatever you want to call it. They're being stuck and then just recycled back in and back in and back in. So they're coming back in with all that trauma over and over and over again. And of course, eventually that's going to lead to something like psychopathic behavior and all of these kind of childhood illnesses that kids are being, that we're noticing in kids these days, you know? So this is our opportunity in this lifetime to break out of the matrix, break out of the trap and not be recycled back in. Just knowing that you don't have to do that will be your saving grace upon leaving the body. So, yeah. Anything else on that topic?
No, I think I gave my 2 cents.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh yeah, it's exhausting. They do. It literally, it's sucking the life force from you. That's what they do because they can't access it any other way. And there is usually entity involvement as well. So not only is the human sucking the life from you, but the entities are sucking the life from you as well. And that creates a really difficult situation as far as energy and can even lead to the deterioration of your physical health, which is what it did for me. Like physically, I was so ill in a relationship like that for 20 some year, 21 years. So you don't realize how much it affects you until you're out of that environment and not experiencing that suppressive energy, because it literally feels like a blanketed, weighted blanket over top of you. And it's literally created to just suppress you and suppress your light. So it can be very difficult if anyone is struggling with that. I feel for you. And like, we have a lot of experience in working with this kind of stuff. We've experienced it ourselves in our own relationships. So if you need support, definitely reach out. Okay, so the other really big topic we wanted to talk about is the party that we went to.
The
Do you want to talk about
90,
that?
yeah, we went to a 9-year-old birthday party at this like little cute Italian hall. And well, I was already sick, okay? Like when I had already come in to the country, into US, I was already like weak from all the things that I was doing, like all the activities and whatnot from you know, my grandmother's death and all that. And then also carrying all the stress along. And then when I finally get to Tina's, I'm able to let go a little bit, and therefore I become a little more sick, or my sickness comes out. My son also had some coughing fits and whatnot, some dry coughing fits, which only happened when we were working doing RSRs. He would just start coughing. We would try to, you know, be quiet, have the kids be quiet while we would work. And you would just hear him like coughing the night away. Like, which is funny because obviously also orchestrated by these dark energies, because it only happened then. And Tina's dog too would also be like, you know, dilly-dallying when we would be working. So we're just kind of like, okay, both Buggy and Coco's entities or parasites are just like talking to each other.
Yeah.
So anyway, all that to, say I was sick too. I got sick, like my body was like in a weakened state. And then we go to this party. I was okay, like on a trajectory, like I was stable. And then the next day after, like, because we were drinking, we were having a good old grand time dancing. And the next day, Tina got really sick. Like she started to get the crunchy cough. She was getting like, it was, the deep, deep cough, sore, itchy throat. Did you have malaise? I like to use that word because that's real for me. Malaise is usually my word. Like all the flu symptoms, let's say. And yeah, so kind of went down again. Like right away. It wasn't just like a gradual thing, But then we found out, because the next day we went for Tina's cousin's little sprinkle, because she's having a baby. So we went there for that party, but we found out that everybody was feeling off or, sick, flu-y. Like everyone who went to this party, it seemed, felt flu-y. Yeah. So that was a little odd. So we, and Tina had it for like practically the whole time we were there visiting. So, and we went, and that was early on in the vacation. So
it was bad for me too. Like it started in my throat. It moved down to like here, which was the like deep raspy cough. And then it started moving down like into my lungs. And like it was bronchitis-y. I knew that. I actually had to take antibiotics. And then it started to move down even deeper. And that's when I kind of got scared. I'm like, shit, I'm going to have to take antibiotics or this is going to turn into a pneumonia. And that's why I have that stash of like zithromycin. So I took that to like nip it in the bud before it got any worse. And like I was actually having trouble breathing. If I didn't have that inhaler, I had an inhaler from like a long time ago when I was sick, and I actually had to use it, like an albuterol inhaler, because my lungs were they were so constricted and inflamed, and the albuterol will open the airways and allow the flow in. But I probably would have needed to go to like urgent care or something if I didn't have that stuff at home. And plus all the supplements, the quercetin, zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C, those 4, plus glutathione, zinc. I said zinc, right? Yeah, lots and lots of zinc I took.
Yeah, I felt my recovery after you gave me like the, all that cocktail for the couple of days. I bounced back pretty quickly. And then I decided to take a little Ivor, because I wanted to know, like, what was going on parasitically inside. Usually when I go to Jersey, I love to eat. I think everyone knows that if they follow us. I love eating. And going to Jersey is like, an amazing time because your food's so different than it is here. So that being said, I decided to take one of those half. Actually, she had a 12 milligram. I decided to take a 6, like just half that little thing. And then I said, when should I be feeling like these changes or whatever? Or when should I get an effect? Because when Tina went through that, when she did a parasitic cleanse, she was really sick. Like, yeah, like almost like gastro symptoms, like, but bad, and so I didn't do the cleanse. I just literally just took that pill. And so, yeah, she said about like 24 to 48 hours, right on close to the 48-hour mark. We were like going to watch some TV, like in bed. And then I felt like this weird energetic shift happen. Like something died in my body. I'll call it that. It sounds dramatic, but it was just such a very obvious shift. Like, yeah, something died. And I don't know if it was physical, energetic, but probably both. Mm-hmm. And I felt myself go, oh boy, like I was just like holding on my belly. And I know when I get like that, diarrhea is coming. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat that, but yeah, it was coming. So I ended up going like several times during that period. Like it was like within like an hour and a half period or so, while we were watching our show. And so I was purging, thankfully not vomiting, but purging. And, my stomach was just really upset. And I was just like, okay, go, whatever. Like, I welcome it. It needs to go. I need to purge it out. It doesn't belong here. And then we were going to bed and I was freezing, like, and I started shaking, like, having like these extreme shakes, like, what do you call it?
Teeth chattering shake.
Yeah, my teeth were chattering. And yeah, the vibration was so strong, and cold, like I was freezing. And I don't know how long that lasted for, because it just felt really intense, like
About 20 minutes. And I was seeing, while that was happening, I was seeing like these energetic parasites leaving your body. Like it was being like off gassed. So as like the body was it was like vibrating them off.
Yeah,
like
it kind of reminded me, like, when animals or have traumatic experiences, they shake to release the trauma. I feel in that case, like I was shaken to release the dead parasites or whatever, the energy of the parasites that were, that didn't belong there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was 20 minutes of vigorous, like, shaking and whatnot. So yeah, and it felt like every single muscle in my body was affected by that, because the next day I felt like I had worked out like hard, or we had danced, or exactly how it felt when we had danced after that party, that 9-year-old party. So we're going to get back to that whole party situation, because again, like, it was a little suspicious that a lot of people, there was like 100 people, and let's say they found out that a lot of them,
just say even half of them, I think it was a lot. Yeah. So yeah, I was really suspicious about that half of those people came down with something like the day after the party. It's not like, if it was an actual virus, like viruses have an incubation period, right? It takes, 3 to 7 days, say, for a virus to kick in, if you believe in the germ theory, which I don't. So it's not a virus. So we know that. However, we knew something had to happen there. It's not a coincidence that so many people came down with something, that their bodies were reacting to something. So, I had a lot of different suspicions or whatever. Hold on one sec.
Talking to the dog.
So I had Karen go in to remote view the party to see like what was actually happening there. Like, why did we get sick? And she saw that, well, you can explain what you saw.
What did I see? How did I describe it? It was just like as if like the waves that were coming into this building or whatever, I'll call it 5G. Like those kind of frequencies were coming in, and they were, I guess, blasting everybody. So whether you had the shot or not, you're being blasted by these frequencies. And if you understand like what 5G is, it's like a really short and fast, like, type of frequency. So those are pretty, I guess they can penetrate the body and cause, effects, because, anyway, all that to say was that these waves were coming in and affecting everybody. And given that they were having like an interaction with people who had the shot, there's graphene oxide in these shots or whatever, and metals, heavy metals too. It was creating like an amplification and like what did I call it? It was just like an aura of garbage or something. I don't remember what I said.
It was like you said it was like an activation of their aura, where it like created an opening in their aura. And Yeah, it was you described it as like a cloud of garbage, just like whatever low vibrational energy was being emitted from the secondary emission created by the frequency coming in, activating the graphene oxide or some kind of heavy metals in the body, and then creating this secondary emission that was kind of surrounding everybody. So, we're all in a room together, dancing and all that kind of stuff. This is the first time too that I've been exposed on a level like that in the same room with vaccinated people, to that extent. Like I've been out shopping and things like that, but never in really close contact with people. So that was my first time, which I think is why I was so affected afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you saw kind of like these garbage clouds, right?
Yeah, and the garbage clouds were all like interacting with each other. So it was just like kind of what do you call it? Intermingling within each other, and we're vulnerable and dancing in this garbage cloud, right? And then you have the waves coming in and like pretty much being shot, because I mean, if you have radiation coming in and hitting some metal, for those of you who don't know anything about radiation and how it works, it's like it hits metal and then it can create a secondary electron from the interaction. So, you have all this happening with electrons, which is ionized radiation. I mean, put all that together and pretty much and we were there for like 5 hours or something at least, So put that all together and you're pretty much in a soup of like radiation poisoning. Like you're just in that. So that's pretty much the conclusion that we came up with, is that either we're like being targeted or whatever, or it's just getting people to become sick, to get tested, like that's what happened. I think there was like a handful of people that got tested after that party, right? So, but we just happened to be there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there were also reptilians and interdimensional reptilians in the room.
Right.
Watching and basking in that energy, which Amanda made a good point in saying that just being in the presence of reptilians can make people sick. So that was like an added element on top of everything else. Yeah. So the symptoms that people were experiencing are symptoms of low level radiation sickness. And what's interesting is hold on one second.
Want to take him out? No?
He just went out. I had FCT done, which is like frequency testing for toxicology in the body. And this was my second retest. The first one I had a couple weeks before Karen came. So say a few weeks before the party, I did it's kind of like homeopathy. I did that. I did actually feel an increase in energy while you guys were here. And even though I was sick most of the time. So that was interesting. And then I had the recheck done just a few days ago, which is 2 or 3 weeks after the party. And what came up was my olfactory nerve was affected, and I had ionizing radiation in my macrophages. So what clicked for me was like, okay, well, they say that people with, COVID have their olfactory nerve is affected, right? Because somehow they lose their smell and taste. And nobody knows how this virus causes the loss of smell and taste. So that was interesting. And then it made me think, okay, well, if the ionizing radiation is in the macrophages, then those cells are working to clean up the radiation in the body. So it must have been like a recent exposure. And the doctor kind of like verified that. So that felt like a confirmation of what we saw from the party, that yes, this really did happen. Like what you were seeing with these frequencies coming in, creating this like cloud of radiation poisoning, that's what was affecting everyone.
Right. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But then just further to that, I mean, just adding to that story, we've been talking to people, even our teacher, Dr. Palmer, has been MIA. He's been sick for like the last couple of days, but found out that he was at a conference with another colleague and is now sick. And it's like, is this what's happening to people? Like, are they getting affected by these radiation shootouts, I'll call it, or, you know, or being targeted, or we don't know. But it sounded very similar. And even the other people who have gotten sick to that degree of, like, you know, needing to go to the hospital or getting checked or whatever, have had contact prior to that in like a larger like setting with others. Though it is easy to say that, you know, that people have been in contact, you know, COVID and the new variant and whatever the hell you want to call it. But to me, honestly, it's just a little too suspicious. And also because we were together with like 100 people and half of them getting sick the very next day, it sounds like a little too good to be true, actually, if you will. And even if we did get sick, let's say days before, I don't know, I find it's way too coincidental. So yeah, I don't know where Tina is. I think she's bringing the dog. I wanted to also jump on the topic from our RSRs that we've been having lately. In sessions, we've been seeing a lot, like, because we started burning, I think in the last couple of months, like burning contracts that we usually sign up for majority of the time in an unconscious state. So sometimes like in our dream time through the astral, you know, sometimes we get hijacked and then are, you know, bound to a contract. So we do see like satanic contracts, for example, false light, things like that. And it was funny because like we had seen different contracts. What was that contract that was really interesting? Was it the clown contract that came up? We had a Dreamcatcher contract, Dark Cloud contract. That Dark Cloud contract came up during that whole narcissism stuff. So just to say that there's something there related to that. But yeah, there was a Google contract, or it was related to Google, but it was like a clown contract that was more so related to the Google stuff, right?
Yeah, it came up as a clown contract. Then you said it was related to Google, and it was created by the Google AI itself. Like AI is now creating things because it knows us so well, and it created this contract. And the point of it was, so everyone that's using Google, and you said, even if you're looking at an image or reading an article or watching a video that is joy inducing, it's sending through this frequency of fear. It's inducing fear in people. So that was the contract. And then, so I asked if we could, so it came up for a specific person. It was a female, 20 years old. But it wasn't just for her. We saw that the entire collective, everyone that uses Google, was being affected by this entity and this contract. And so I asked if we could clear that for her or for the collective, and you unplugged it somehow, like it was plugged in, and you unplugged it. And then there was kind of like this backdoor entry also into people. So it was kind of like a fail safe was set up. And then so we unplugged the main thing, and then it was coming through the back door and into people. So we had to take that down as well. And what was really interesting about that is the next day I saw that Google's systems were down. Something about Google systems being down. So that was really, really interesting.
Yeah, true. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a new system called Go or something like that. I don't really know a lot about it, but yeah, that was really interesting. Yeah, Helen, that was pretty crazy. Yeah, it takes so long to get your smell and taste back because of the damage that the radiation does to your nervous system. That's the whole thing. And in a video before, we talked about the book called The Invisible Rainbow. And the author of that book, Arthur Firstenberg, talks about how every pandemic we've ever had is preceded by the introduction of new frequencies to the population. So, for example, in 1918, with the Spanish flu and all the people that died there, that was the first time that radio frequencies were introduced globally to the entire population of the world. And the human body is not used to those kinds of frequencies. It's the same thing as like when electricity was also introduced for the first time to populations. People started getting really sick because they're not used to the frequencies. So in combination in 1918 with the introduction of these radio frequencies, and a lot of the military was affected because these systems were set up on Navy ships. So entire Navy ships of men were coming down with the flu. We'll just call it the flu, which was really radiation sickness from the radar systems being set up on their ships. And if you think about it, how could an entire ship full of men out in the middle of the sea, catch a virus? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. And he proves in that book that they've never been able to. So it was that in 1918, it was that the radiation in combination with the flu vaccine. So the body's already poisoned with radiation, and then you're adding more poison on top of it with the vaccine, which is the same thing that's happening now, same exact thing. And people are dropping like flies. So it's a really interesting theory. And it was really interesting then that we saw that some kind of frequency was creating this radiation like sickness. And then also you talked about, Dr. Palmer being at this conference with, groups of other healers too. And we've seen not only those things, but other healers talking about how they've been sick recently too in the last like month or so. And with aspects of entity involvement. One of those people actually saw this entity appear to him. He was hospitalized, and this entity had a priest-like color on, but the feeling of this being was dark and gray. And he's like, I wasn't taking any chances, and I just got out my sword and sliced it. So that was that. But the interesting thing about that story is that on the third day he had to go get an x-ray, and the person that had to like push him down for the x-ray looked identical to the entity that had showed up to him on the first day, so without the priest's collar. And he said his energy was okay. So that was really interesting. But what I'm feeling here is that there's a lot of entity influence and targeting at this time. So we need to be really careful and protected, and not to induce fear, but awareness that these things do happen. And the way that I know that there's entities around, like I can't physically see them, but my dog does. And the last few days specifically, he's been like, I know he alerts me because I can tell he's really scared of something, and he also gets very rigid. And then there was like a weird like gas leak or something that happened in the building next to us, and at the same time he was like freaking out. So there's a lot of spiritual influence right now, and we need to be vigilant and careful about our energy and protecting our energy right now, for sure. Because one of the main reason they target healers is because of the work we do, and to throw us off our path, right? So, keeping your immune system up is really the only way to guard against these kinds of radiation type whether it's targeting or not, there's no, nothing that's going to really protect you from that besides really keeping your immune system supported through, supplements, vitamin C, like someone said here, 1,000 milligrams. Yeah. Vitamin C, zinc, quercetin, and what was the other one? Vitamin D is a really good combination, plus NAC and or glutathione. So back to the contracts. The other contract you said we saw was the dark cloud one, which was in relation to like the narcissist thing, right? So when we see these things, it's not just for like the person we're viewing it for. It's affecting many people at the same time. That's what we need to understand. Like, it's not just for that person. So when we're clearing it for them, we're clearing it also for many people at the same time. And we also saw another really interesting contract that came up was the Dreamcatcher contract. Did you talk about that one?
I mentioned it. That was part of the 3 that I was talking about.
Yeah. So the Dreamcatcher contract was really interesting. My attention was just drawn to this beautiful feather I found today. The Dreamcatcher contract was really interesting because it was like as if people had this Dreamcatcher contract that was allowing entities to create these dreamtime astral scenarios and then siphon the energy from that. So like they were using these scenarios as loosh. So they might create some kind of violent or traumatic dream, and then feed off of that. Right.
Yeah. And there was like also a portal too that was associated to it.
To the actual physical dream catchers.
Yeah.
Dream catchers can create portals. Also, any kind of like crystal grids, I know those are really popular right now. They can create portals as well. And they can be used for good, or negative entities can take them over and use that as a portal to come through. So you have to be careful what we're doing there as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
you want to tell them about David Bowie's eye?
You can tell them, you saw it.
Well, just a little introduction about like how we came about these things. Further into our treatments and we'll call them treatments and interventions with our clients. Sometimes we see them on a regular basis, or we have clearings for them on a regular basis. Also, I guess these are like for severe cases, especially like when they have developed like psychosis. So we do work with them energetically, weekly, and also we do to a certain degree, or like when they're ready to have a surrogate session. So this was a clearing that ended up becoming a surrogate, I believe, right? And it was really a very deep rabbit hole inception type scenario. A lot of it was related to mind control, and it led us down the rabbit hole after just like listening to the session, because a lot of media stuff came up. So like what do you call it? Yeah, Teletubbies came up, Nightmare Before Christmas. There was reference to, Muppets, obviously David Bowie and his eye. I didn't even know that David Bowie had 2 different colored eyes. So I was focusing on the David Bowie that showed up was the one in the 80s that I saw. He had a star on his eye, but the one that we were seeing, or that they show in online, it's kind of like a lightning bolt or something like that. And he has one light eye, and whatever. So when I saw it, it looked like a cat eye to me. So I mean, I think everybody knows what a cat eye looks like. But then I think that's how I was interpreting it, because again, it is coming through my filter. But you know, if you think about it, or where we're looking later, what reptile eye looks like, it looks the same. So it was probably a reptile eye, and you know, me being like, you know, protecting myself, I'm like, oh, it's just a little kitty cat, you know. But it was
But
also
see, I
the
was
kitty
thinking,
cat was relative too.
well, that's what I was gonna say, because then we were doing a little research on David Bowie and we found that weird cat movie that he was associated with.
Yeah, yeah, it was like a black cat, which is also related to what do you call it? Satanic ritual abuse, and for them to develop what subpersonalities?
Yeah, like the sex kitten altars. Yeah.
Yeah. So those kind of things. And it was like there was one thing that we saw. It was like a black. What kind of cat was it? Like a, I don't know. All that to say, like we saw like these imagery that had to do like with these altars, like alter egos and whatnot, that have to do with satanic ritual abuse. Um, and doing like going further down into the David Bowie stuff, like, so I mean, I saw his eye up close and personal, and it looked like a little kitty cat eye. And then the eye would open. So the iris, is it iris? The pupil would open up so big that it created a portal to go into. So I went into the eye of David Bowie in this session, and it led us to 3 doors. There was a checkered floor, and it led to 3 doors.
Black and white checkered floor that's usually associated with Freemasonry.
Right. So we went into the 3 doors, and the 3 doors were very, I guess, kind of cryptic, and they had a lot of dark stuff. Like pretty much any door that you chose to go through was inducing fear. So it did act as a form of loosh, like to get any energy from whatever was being created through by activating the fear.
They were
So,
each a different weird scenario. Like in one, it was like an old lady's house and she was like bloody or something. Right. And then the other one was like you
yeah,
were just
like there was.
falling or something. And the other one, I don't remember. But yeah, it was like really nasty kind of stuff. It just like really terror inducing scenario.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we went down the rabbit hole with the David Bowie stuff, and it led us to the movie that he did called in 1986.
Right. But before we go to that, there was a being there in that room with the portals. Remember?
Right.
Describe that being.
I don't remember. Is it the one that looked like the old dusty man? Is it dusty? Is that it? Can you like?
No, it was a different kind of being with a big head and a big.
Oh, it was a man at first. No, a dusty man, but then his true form was this big forehead, big eyes, really big eyes, and us like, did he have like a small mouth with a lot of sharp teeth? Is that the one? Because yeah, so it was like a really weird. I don't even know what that was. It looked like a gray, I guess. The closest thing I could think of is a gray, but not fully a gray.
Gray like, yeah, but it didn't feel like a gray to me. It felt like something more malevolent.
Yeah, something more malevolent.
And that thing
So
was like in control of all of that. And plus, not only influencing him, but the family as well.
oh yeah, that's right. It's true.
And yeah, because I remember asking, like, why haven't we seen this before? Because we worked with him so much, you know?
Yeah, but it was really like in a deeper layer of the subconscious. Um, so anyway, like we were saying, we dug further into David Bowie, who is related to like the MKultra and all of that mind control stuff, which was a little interesting. And it also led us back to his 1986 movie, which was also with Jim Henson, in The Labyrinth. And I mean, if you think about The Labyrinth, I mean, it was totally related to our client because of how vast his consciousness is. If you listen to us back, we had talked about him. He was one of the abductees that we had seen, and had experienced a lot of trauma, tons and tons and tons of trauma. But it feels like there's so much more to his story. I won't go into too much detail, but just to say that this was the same client that we have spoken about before. And so because of all the trauma that he has experienced through, the abductions and whatever else that we have not yet discovered, created like this whole vast space. And yeah, all relative to that labyrinth in that movie.
I always thought that was a really weird movie. Even as a kid, it was just like weird.
Yeah,
and
it was really weird.
There's an article online that really lays out step by step how that movie represents like the mind controlled programming they do with the MKultra type slaves, and how like the girl in that movie represented one of those girls that they program, and then the baby that she was trying to rescue from him, because David Bowie is this like weird like wizard kind of thing. I forget what they actually call him in that movie. It's just so strange.
Oh, like the Goblin King?
Oh, the Goblin King. Yeah. And he's surrounded by all these like little goblins. It's like totally the astral. That's what it felt like. It was like we were in.
Yeah, because they had dust bunnies.
Yeah. They had the dust bunnies that we see in sessions, like in the movie, which just kind of look like little mop heads that go around. But yeah, it was like totally like imagery of someone's subconscious and how they create all of this like chaos and confusion in order to traumatize and program their victim. And even in the end of the movie, where they're at this like weird elite type party, the one where they wear all the weird masks and stuff, like in Eyes Wide Shut. And she's, this young girl, probably like 15 and dressed up and sexualized. And it's just a whole really weird scene. And
yeah, and that Goblin King was her handler.
Yeah. The Goblin King was her handler. Like that's the story. That's what they're showing you with all of this imagery. Of course, normal people aren't suspecting anything like that, but it's almost like they're signaling to each other, like, look at this. But if I can find the link to that article, he lays it out like so well. It was really, really good. But yeah, if you just like watch that movie, you probably just like think it's really strange, unless you know the imagery and the symbols that they're using to show you what their actual evil plans are. Like it's really sick people.
Yeah. And also like to say, like when we got home from our trip, my kids had like a little Happy Meal, and this was what was in the thing. Kitty cat. Exactly like the cat that we had seen with the whole thing. And look at the big eyes too.
I know.
Portal eyes.
Portal eyes.
Portal eyes.
Yeah.
Hi, Lisa.
The baby was a representation of her innocence that she was trying to protect. Exactly. Yeah, that he had stolen from her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was really wild. It's interesting to look back on movies you watched as a child and see it with an adult perspective. And
Totally.
it makes me wonder if Jim Henson was involved in all of that kind of stuff too.
Well, yeah, he must have, because he was, I mean, you can't get in that business and get up there, it feels. That's what it seems to be. This is like what it feels like. And plus you have someone like him, Jim Henson, who's making puppets for kids. Like it's already fishy. Like that's red flag already for me. For sure. I don't trust nobody. And he's doing like a movie with David Bowie. Yeah, I hate how they like, they come up with this movie and they disguise it. They lay out all of their disgusting, dirty plans out there, but then they hide it because there's puppets in there. So, it's not real. It's just like little puppet things and whatever.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is just twisted. Take out the puppets. It's a twisted story. Like that's not a normal story.
Right. And it's definitely not a story appropriate for children.
No, because it signals like the child within to look at, how funny it is. You're bypassing like the true story, and your subconscious is eating it up.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's totally like subconscious programming, Somebody was
just
talking
like the Teletubbies.
yeah, the Teletubbies. I mean, how can you look at them and not think they're really weird? I always thought they were really weird, but apparently the symbols on each of their heads, each represent something, and like strung together, they read a sentence, and it's whatever it is. It's not good. I can't remember exactly what it was now, but you just have to look it up. There's not a lot out there on the Teletubbies, but there's a few really interesting things.
You go find it on BitChute.
Yeah. So, yeah, really interesting.
Snacking.
Huh?
Snacking.
Really interesting sessions lately. How are you guys? An artist friend worked with who? David Bowie, Lisa? Tell us about
Jim
that.
Henson.
How are you guys? Anything else interesting that we've seen lately?
We've seen a lot of stuff. Just can't really put it.
What are you snacking on?
Smarties.
Huh?
Smarties.
Smarties?
Oh, it's Canadian chocolate. It's not like the American Smarties. I think those, what you guys call Smarties, like Rockettes. Those like little things. Jim the Puppet Man.
Yeah, what's interesting too about the Muppets is that Karen sees a lot of the demons in our sessions as Muppets.
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know.
What is my subconscious taking? You're right. I am very suggestible.
But maybe they really are like fashioned upon demons. I don't know.
Oh, Helen. I like Animal too, but Animal has been coming up a lot, but not in a good way.
Right. So I wonder if that's just your subconscious, like showing you the demons that look like as Muppets, so not to scare you, or if there's some kind of connection there.
I don't know, because like I have seen them for face value. So I think it's just easier for me. Maybe it's just easier for them to show me what it looks like so that I could easily describe it to you. It's just a faster recall maybe for me. Instead of having to be like, okay, it's furry and it has a nose, a purple nose. And when I could just say like, oh, it's Grover, like.
Right.
Yeah.
What's interesting too is we saw that big hairy guy with the horns in the labyrinth. We saw in a couple of sessions like beings like him, right?
Yeah, and they portray him as a good guy, but in the end, what they were saying, like her friends that she made in the labyrinth are still technically of the labyrinth. They are still technically the workers of the Goblin King. So they're not really her friends, you know? She never got out of it. She was
Right,
still a
because
prisoner to it.
right, because that's how it works in real life. They set up people to your handlers, set up people to come into your life as your friends that are really working for them. They're not really your friends.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So she never, even though they show her like taking back her power, she's
Yeah.
really not. She's really still stuck in the labyrinth in that programming.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the owl ended up being the Goblin King in the real life, in the physical, and it was still outside the window watching her.
Yeah.
While she still invited her friends over, like, it's so tragic. Are we ever going to be free from this? That's the thing. It's like they're kind of showing you that you're never ever really going to be free.
I'm free.
Sorry to put a downer on
I'm free. I feel free. My feather of freedom.
like eating chocolates to feed my parasites, so I'm not.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have these turkey hawks that are protectors, and every time we drive somewhere, they literally like line the
Swoop
road
over.
and swoop over our cars. Yeah. And today I found this beautiful feather that they left for us.
I love it.
Yeah. Lisa said sometimes when I'm looking at difficult things in meditation, they turn into cartoon characters.
Okay. Well, it makes sense.
Yeah. The big guy with the horns was in the night kitchen. I never heard of that.
Didn't eat any more chocolate.
The night
But
kitchen.
eating the kids' chocolate.
Any other interesting movies for us to watch? Any suggestions?
Yeah, we're very open to suggestions. We saw a couple of those Korean shows on Netflix. What was that one? The one wait, what was it? The one where those monsters came in and just like killed the thing. Do you remember?
What was that called?
I don't know.
That was
Hellbound?
Hellbound. Yeah.
Oh yeah, catch that on Netflix if you're ever interested in just taking a check-see. Watch the first episode. It was just really interesting.
It's not for like super sensitive people, just trigger warning on that one. That was
It was intense. I mean, it's pretty graphic. Yeah, really graphic actually. For me, even. I'm not all for that. That stuff irks me. But
yeah, it was really graphic. And I like to watch like different things just to see what they're programming people with. Just to see what's out there. And I think it's interesting on Netflix, especially that there's all these really sick kind of shows like that one, Midnight Mass. They're really, really dark. Like they're really showing their true colors now with these really, really dark movies and shows, and that have a spiritual element to them.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Squid Game, that was really
Twisted and dark.
it's really twisted. Yeah, it's a really twisted. They're just it's like a mockery, you know, they're just like mocking the population with what they're actually doing, playing their sick games.
Yeah.
The Milo series. Avatar, I would like to watch again.
That was we watched that together, right? Like I don't think we watched it through and through, like straight.
Yeah, I think we saw like clips of it. Yeah, I'd like to see Avatar again. It's like every time you watch a movie over again, you'll have like a new awareness and pick up different things,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our son wants to watch Matrix with Tina, so that'll be, what did you call it? After school special?
Yeah, after school special. Um, yeah, there's a new Matrix movie coming out soon. The Great Tree. I never heard of that either. I'm writing these down.
Oh, I think the great tree that she's talking about is in the Avatar movie.
Oh,
Remember they were trying to protect that big tree?
yeah. Yeah. That always felt real to me. Even when I watched that and I didn't have any awareness, that tree felt real to me.
Yeah.
Hmm. I know there's so much we have to talk about, but I can't think of anything else. What did I say? I wanted to link the real Christmas story.
Yeah.
And what was the other thing?
You were gonna look for the Labyrinth, that explanation on that website.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions? Anything you want to share with us before we go? Oh, Lisa. Yeah, I shared your post about the AI and the dreams, which is interesting because I think you came in after we talked about the Dreamcatcher contracts, but I think somehow they're related. The Dreamcatcher contracts and the AI artificially created dreams, they feel related to me. Leviathan.
Yeah, if you're still here, please like and subscribe. I can't believe we're at 579. I just saw an old screenshot when I was looking through my old Google pictures. That we had like 31 subscribers, and I was like, oh, that's cute. Back in the day, it is kind of scary to have like a lot of people subscribe to. Yeah, it reminded me of that time, which I thought was really funny to me because you know me very personally, right, Tina? And it's like, like my quirks and all that stuff. So it's like we look at each other, we see each other as like these regular human beings. And then it's like we got online one time with a client. We were meeting her for the first time, and she started crying when she saw us. And I was like, "Oh no, don't do that. That's weird. Like, I'm just normal. Like, I pee and poo too, just like you. Like it's not. It was really odd to me. Like it just, you kind of just bring it down a little bit, like, because I don't see myself as anything more than you are, like it's just, oh God, please don't do that, like that's weird. Like, I'm not judging, but it's like, I get, again, because like, yeah, I get the whole thing, like with, you see people, stars, I guess, I don't know, and you idolize them or whatever. I don't like to use that word, but you know it's just funny to think of that myself as that. Like even talking about it, I'm just like, I don't want to. Well,
He was really sweet.
no, she was really sweet. I was just like, please, like you're no better. I am no better than you, like at all. Like I
Yeah.
just want you to sit with me at my table and have tea. It's just that's it. There's no tear here.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
My dreams are pretty lame too, Lisa.
Um, I don't know. I don't remember my dreams as much as I used to. I used to remember them a lot. Now I don't. But I just know when they're weird. Didn't I have some weird ones while I was there?
Yeah, we
I
both
heard.
did.
Yeah. Yeah, you said I stabbed you last night.
Yeah. That's all I remember is you stabbed me, but it was weird because it felt like AI, like there was no emotional
I was
reaction.
just like,
Casual stabbing.
love you. That's weird.
Yeah, really weird. Lisa. You're- All
Yeah,
right, guys.
Lisa, we want to come to visit you at your store.
Yeah, stop by media.
Yeah, we'll pass by.
Maybe in January when Karen comes back.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Can't wait to go to Wawa again. I need to get my rewards card. Free Tuesday coffee. I love Wawa. Okay. Well, I guess that wraps up our show, everybody. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming to the 11 folk, beautiful people. Helen, Lisa. I think I saw another person who had also written in there. I Mark One. Thank you very much for showing up in today's episode. It's always a pleasure to have you incorporated and interacting with us. We love that very much. Yeah, we like to hear anything, like if you have any comments or suggestions about what you want to hear about. We always talk about session stories because those are usually like what fascinates us the most and what is actually relative to real life. So yeah, let us know how you guys are doing. And if you know anything or have, if you could just keep an eye out, observe your areas. And if you hear anything about people getting sick and, just ask them casually, like, were you anywhere before this happened? Were you in a large crowd? Were you with specific people? Because we do feel that this is starting to come out more. Just like when we were driving up to upstate Pennsylvania, and I think Tina, you saw like that fake tree amongst the trees but it was a 5G tower, and I just saw one like all by itself, which was like really obvious. But I was just like, okay, like, what are you trying to disguise?
I know.
Like, why are you trying to disguise it? Why?
Right.
Like, why do you have to disguise it?
Right. They don't disguise anything else. Like all their other.
Yeah, right. You just have like, oh yeah, well they disguise the chemtrails by making it into like these works of art right in the sky. So I guess.
Well, that's another thing too. They've been chemtrailing the hell out of us recently. So that could be contributing to people getting sick as well. So it's interesting though, like right as a lot of people are coming down with this sickness, that they come out with the new variant.
Right. What's it called again? Or what's the Omicron. And what was the connection to Omicron? What does the Omicron mean?
There's a lot of different connections. There was a movie called Omicron. What was the specific one that I was telling you about?
Well, it's related to some fucking demon, right?
Yeah,
Like that's real.
it's related to a demon. It's also related to a race of like reptilian beings or something, like fallen angelic race.
There you go. Coincidence? Maybe. Whatever you want to think. It's wild world. Wild, wild west we live in, people.
Which, so, I mean, it makes sense that when they come out with their new variant, that then they would be targeting people to create these reactions within the body, that then they're going to call COVID and create that fear within the population when it's really radiation freaking poisoning.
Right. And how, again, like, it's like the video I posted today on, or the other day on Facebook about, you know, that guy who was saying, like, how the hell are we getting these variants if the only people who could travel are the vaccinated ones? So how is it coming here? How is it coming from wherever it's originating from? Like, how does that work?
Okay. Number one, the test cannot test for COVID. So if the test cannot test for COVID, how is it testing for variants? It's not.
Crickets. Cue the crickets. Yeah, keep going. What else?
There's a lot.
Let's cue more crickets. It's all crickets. This whole fucking thing is all crickets.
This is the thing. There are no variants. It's whatever they are targeting with us. They have how many satellites or Starlink or whatever they have up there that they could easily target the population with radiation. They have things, a technology underground that they can do that with too. So that's easy. They're targeting the population with, and it seems like they're targeting like group gatherings to make it look like people caught the virus there, when really they're directed some kind of weapon at them to induce these symptoms in the body, creating radiation sickness.
Solved.
All
right. Well, thank you so much for that amazing conclusion. Yeah, they say a lot of things came from Africa, Helen. It's like, you know, it's all crap.
Moronic, yeah. It's an anagram for moronic. Exactly.
Okay. Well, it was a pleasure to be with you tonight, my darling. And as well as all of our friends, wish you a blessed evening. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay grounded, stay in your body.
Stay protected.
And yes, protect yourselves at all times.
Because whatever is going on with this, whatever is going on with this sickness, people getting sick or their bodies reacting to this, there's a spiritual element to it as well. So stay protected in your energy. That's all.
Mic drop.
Love you guys so much. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time. Sending you so much love.
Bye, guys. Peace.